Fred Potter, Lynford.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lynford Lawrence. I work for I worked as a port truck driver for Toll, Global Forwarding, and Carteret for 2 years. Unlike the majority of the other companies, Toll, Global Forwarding probably employs their employees as W-2 employees. In 2013, me and my co-workers voted to join the Teamsters Union. Since 2013, the union has been negotiating with the company for our first contract. The company is looking to cut our pay $3.50 per hour and has told us that this is what they have to do in order to compete with the low-road companies who misclassify their workers. Because of that, we have guys in fear of their jobs because they can barely make it on the wages that they're making now. So to take a $3.50 pay cut, they can't even understand how they can make it to take care of their families with that much of a pay cut. They've been cutting hours. We've had guys leave, trying to find better work out there. We just have, guys scared. And with that, they're bringing on more misclassified workers, and our W-2 employees is becoming lesser. And, we was told, companies that use the misclassification model can save up to 30% on their labor costs and can lower trucking rates to customers. So, that's particularly why, they're doing this. So, me and, the other co-workers for Toll, we felt that if there were better enforced labor laws in the port trucking industry, companies who cheated the system would find that the 1099 model to be a financial liability. And companies like Toll would be better positioned to compete on a level playing field. And if all trucking companies enforced to play by the rules, us drivers at Toll would be able to bargain a fair contract that include wages that allow us to support our families. And that's basically, what I have to say. Vice President.
President Teamsters Local 469, but I also serve as the Vice President for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, and I'm the Director of the Port Division. So I get to meet a lot of port drivers. But before I get into that, I think there's something that has to be said. Congressman, your father was always a staunch supporter of people, and whenever we called on him, he was there for those workers. He would be very proud to see the efforts that you're making on behalf of working people. I will say something about you, though. You picked better weather days than your dad did. I said, in the cold, in the blistering heat, you've got a better choice of days, okay? But your dad was a hero to the Teamsters, and you are a hero as well, because I appreciate this. This is a very necessary bill. It's timely. We're at the crossroads in America of workers' rights. People don't understand what the difference between the W-2 and the 1099 is. Hey, I'm getting paid. Well, let me tell you what a W-2 employee gets. A W-2 employee gets workman's compensation. They get unemployment insurance. They get disability. They're also protected under OSHA and EEOC and many other worker protections that many people just take for granted. But a misclassified 1099, if a port driver who's misclassified and labeled as independent contractor, he dies on the job today, OSHA won't even investigate him. He has no rights. He has no access to health care. He will under the Affordable Health Care Act. He's going to bear the entire cost. NELP did a study of the port industry, and they wrote two reports, Big Rig 1, Big Rig 2. Both great reports, very fact-finding. It's what we see every day. 85% of port drivers are misclassified. What Lynford talked about was, we're bargaining a contract with a company that does not misclassify its workers. And they're saying, we can't compete with the 85% who don't pay unemployment, don't pay Social Security, don't provide disability, don't pay overtime, right? And dictate all the terms, and the employees are responsible for the cost of running the business. And there's two schemes they use. They either have the employee buy a truck, right, in which he pays all the costs, signs a lease, he can't work for anybody else, he doesn't dictate the terms, and he doesn't dictate the hours of his work, right? And then you have the guys like Lynford work for a company, they get all the protection of wage and hour laws, they make overtime, they do all these things, and the company's saying, we can't compete against this model. So what do? We introduced legislation last year in New Jersey, which the legislature passed. Our governor vetoed. He doesn't feel it's important. He doesn't feel like Congressman Payne feels that it's important to protect and cover workers. The fact is, at this port, an economic engine for this region, at this port, a place that's supposed to create good jobs at a living wage, at this port, which is supposed to be the American dream for workers that come here, the immigrant workers that work at this port. It's not. It's a nightmare. Because what you do is, if you're a dock worker, you got a living wage and a decent job. If you're a port police, you got a good living and a decent job. If you work in administration or management at the port, you've got a W-2 job and you can make a decent living to raise your family. But if you're a port driver, you get a 1099. You're responsible for all the costs of the business, and the growing number of things they deduct from the money they do get is growing every day. They create new ways to deduct money. We seen one last year where they require them to park. They deducted money, $25 a month for them, to pay for the cleaning of the yard they don't own, and they have no choice whether they can use it. The fact is, what Big Rig through NELP determined was, there's 85% of the port drivers in this country are misclassified, that their actual wage before taxes is $26,000 a year for a 60-hour work week. They have no access to health benefits. They have no protection under the law. You know, every port company from California to New Jersey that we brought before the U.S. Department of Labor, the New Jersey Department of Labor, the California Department of Labor, the Washington State Department of Labor, every investigation, every company we brought determined the same thing. Those workers are misclassified. The port chooses to do nothing. This is important legislation. If it only brings the discussion that something's wrong in America, that the employment laws are not being enforced, because that's the real issue. The laws are there to protect the workers. They're not being enforced. I just came back from LA. Our struggle in LA is the enforcement of the law. And that's what your bill talks about. It's making the companies accountable. You know, 1099 independent contractors are fine if you're really an independent contractor. But when you're an employee, and the test, the IRS test that's used to determine whether you're an employee or not cannot be passed, there needs to be accountability. I'm proud to be here today on behalf of the Teamsters, be proud for our members, because what we see is a growing trend in the trucking industry, not just the ports, and in the warehousing, either using agencies to deprive the people of employment status, or actually give them a 1099. Can you imagine walking in one of your employees at your office and say, oh, by the way, Monday you're going to get a 1099. Her job didn't change, but she no longer has any of the protections. How that can be considered lawful and proper makes no sense to us. And we just applaud you and your colleagues for taking an effort, and we will be with you to pass this bill every step of the way. Thank you.